And just like that, we are back with Chapter 77 of the Universe According to Mugsy. Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025. I am Mugsy the Creator. And as always, we are going to take a ride through the current events and climb the ladder to the culture which creates those current events. The only contribution you make to that culture is your own individual consciousness. That is how the quantum universe works. You have control over such a little percentage of it, but that reality is projected outward onto the outlying world, and you are the reality creator that gets to pick up on the scent of it and focus your energy and magnify it on whatever you want to pay attention to. That is really the magic world that we live in. It's what we talked about way back at the beginning. Way back at the beginning in the prologue, people are just data, and data is information. That information is the true gold rush that's been going on for decades since we entered this new millennia. That is the truth of it. We are patterns. We are being programmed, and that's what we clued in on. Over the last 76 chapters, we kind of opened up that box, that Pandora's box of what it means to be programmed, to be someone that is a program. We talked about specific examples. MK Monarch, which has just been revealed last December in new documents that were released by FOIA, that this was an actual program that existed way back in the 1940s and the 1950s that developed our leaders. There's a Control Alt History is doing unbelievable videos way back on Marilyn Monroe and how she was a product of this culture of programming individuals to be assets for the deep state, to carry secrets between human beings at a time when information was hard to guide, was hard to disguise. There were many different projects that were to understand how to brainwash the American public. There were many patents, which our television is one of, the radio is another, which were designed to program the American public to believe certain things because beliefs are boundaries. That is how an entire population of human beings can be controlled. You subtly nudge them towards this acceptable boundary of area where they are allowed to explore at depth. As far as you would like to go, you're allowed to explore whether the tax code should be 36, 37, or 39% on the highest percentage of our income earners in the United States of America. You're not allowed to discuss whether or not there should be a tax. Do you understand how we are actually just focusing all of your energy on this one tiny thing, this one tiny aspect that you are fighting your entire existence to try and convince others of this is better in some way, shape, or form? But you're missing the whole thing. You're missing the whole big picture there. What's going on in the UK? In many ways, my friend the Kidney Cowboy has clued me into it's not just what's moving west to east from China to the United States. It's also happening from east to west. The United Kingdom and all of Europe and the things that are going on there are in some ways going to be later deployed in the United States of America, or at least they will try to be. The same tactics. What am I talking about? What in the hell is this guy talking about? Have you just seen the UK has lowered their voting age to 16? What kind of nonsense is that? Where are the incentives aligned here? Who is trying to gain power? Who needs a less educated, informed, and experienced voter base to be expanded to allow what? What kind of funny business is going on behind the scenes? We have seen in the United States of America how these things can be manipulated, how small elections can be stolen. Oh, how many times did we cover it? You want to go back to the hanging Chad way back in the early 2000s, that presidential election? We covered much more recent elections in cities and states across this county in the past year on the Universe According to Mugsy. If you don't believe me, you can check in on my buddy Jimmy Dore. I am quite sure he covered these during the election season. Breaking Point, Saga and Jetty, and Crystal Ball. I'm quite sure they covered it. All right, so lowering the voting age and expanding this voter base is designed to, in some way, shape, or form, take away from the power of the people. Yet again, they're undercutting your right to vote because you have to be a sheep if you believe your right to vote makes any real difference in the long run. How does that correlate? Do you understand how we can have this discussion? Like I just said, we could talk for the next hour about whether the voting age should be 18, 16, or maybe we should up it to 27. Why don't we have a conversation about how your votes don't matter? How no matter who we put in office, Kash Patel, Donald Trump, the Democrats who had the office for the 4 years previous, and the House and the Senate, right? Both teams have had full control, and they've still done nothing to change anything for the American people. They're not doing anything about inflation, which is absolutely crushing the middle class who are struggling to survive. They're not doing anything about the poison healthcare system. They're not doing anything about the education system, which is crumbling. How about the fact that nobody's got a house to live in or a job? Everyone's living on welfare. They're not doing anything about any of these things. That's what's coming next for us. All right? That's the next thing they're going to be rolling out to the United States of America because what's crazy, I mean, Kurt Metzger pointed this out to me the other day. It's like China. We're so afraid of China. What it's going to be like in China? Well, China, there's no crime, and the police go home at 6 o'clock. And they're trusting their entire base of Chinese people to fly flying cars, all right? That's how much they trust their citizens. What trust do we have from our government in the United States of America? What trust did the UK having their people? And I am so lucky. I'm just so blessed. It is crazy to think about how the last decade has gone. And there was some warning, there was some insights that I had if I was paying attention way back in 2012, 2013. My buddy Andy and his wife Zara came over to visit me from London. From way over from London, they came to visit me in Salem, Massachusetts. They stayed with me in the ghetto. Well, way back before I had any idea how the world, nevertheless the universe, began to operate, they made a few comments in their time in the United States of America as we turned on television. Just that pharmaceutical ads are hilarious. It's hilarious because basically every other country in the world, except for New Zealand, which has far more restrictions, have banned the ability for you to be able to put an advertisement on TV, for you to be able to go to your doctor and get these pharmaceutical drugs, which is insane. It was insane, and I wasn't paying attention to what was really happening behind the scenes. Every night in the news broadcast, when they had some sort of pharmaceutical advertisement, they were purchasing the news's ability to cover that story without any clear head. Tucker Carlson has talked about this extensively. After he has left his world in the news media, the legacy media that is backed by the support of advertisements, how he now understands that really he was paying attention. He was in the back of his mind, not looking authentically at what the true issues in society were because his judgment was clouded because he understood that his paychecks were being cashed because of the money provided by those advertisers. And if I had paid true attention to it at that point, man, I wonder where my life would have been. I wonder where my life would have been. But it was exactly the experience that I needed to return back to. In my mind, I had to time travel back to the insights. What was the smartest people in my life trying to teach me at every moment in time? Now, I have no idea if Andy and Zara are the smartest people I've ever met in my life. How would I even measure that? But they came from a land far away. And they had experiences that I didn't have. No one around me had experiences that they had. They also clued me in that no one in the UK really gives a shit about the monarchy. All right? And that was a question I really should have dug more into. Why do we have this bloodline? What is that? Where does that come from? All right? What is this tied back to? And what do we owe these people? These people believe that they actually rule over us? Well, that's dangerous. That's dangerous because I know what a golem is now, which is funny. I never got into that whole Lord of the Rings type stuff, but a golem or a golem is an idea that we breathe energy and life into through our emotions, through our time and our effort and our energy. And now I see these golems all over the place. All right, these are the things that are distracting us, in a sense, from what's really going on, the big picture. All right? So this bloodline, is this really a golem that we are feeding our energy and our emotions into, paying attention to these things that don't really matter, and they are subconsciously giving us control, programming us into a certain mind state, a certain sheep, a certain cattle, that are easily able to be moved into one direction or another as we introduce more technology that we are going to rely on, like we've talked about, how people with the human race is going to make a divide on whether they are going to start utilizing this ChatGPT for every single question that they have in their life, or some form of artificial intelligence, or are people going to move further away from it and start developing new systems and new skills to tap into information so that they can figure out how energy is moving without utilizing the technology the same way that others are doing. There are many options, there are many opportunities, there are many roads that you can go down if you choose to utilize your time and energy to create a golem that has some sort of use for you, instead of one that's being used by somebody else, okay? Why not use that right against them? All right, once you understand how the magic works, you can use the magic yourself. And you can start to design the universe in exactly the way that you see fit. And then you can invite others to join you through your electromagnetic energy. That's what's going on in the heart-mind coherence that we're always talking about. I see articles all the time on the internet. Gabby Kovalenko was sharing one the other day, talking about the actual science and what's going on, and how scientists are finding out every day that there is more and more emotional connection between the heart and the brain. Isn't that interesting? All these listen to your heart type of motifs that we find littered throughout poetry and music and movies and literature. Did I already say that? They're all talking about the same thing. That's how you start to see that the world is really all of these coherent and incoherent patterns coming into a state of array and disarray. That's what's happening at all times, the yin and the yang, creating complete balance. It's nuts. It's nuts. But that's how you were able to walk into your own dream, your own reality, where you are the creator, where you are able to manifest through your own magics, using your spells, your words, and your focus, your energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. To see the world as it is, naturally beautiful, in complete balance. If there is anything out of balance, it is you. Your judgment. That is the projection you are sending out into the universe, which is just a mirror reflecting it back to you. Because until you love what you judge, you will attract what you judge. You will attract what you judge until you love what you judge. As Robert Edward Grant so beautifully puts it. The universe is you in verse. Mathematical equation to be figured out. 1 over u is exactly the medicine you need right now, until you are able to quiet the universe enough to love it exactly as it is, providing the opportunity right now for you to be able to have whatever experience you wish to have. If you have issues that trying to get into that space, that's because there's emotion, which is just information, clogging the arteries, preventing you from being able to quiet the mind. All right? Maybe it's the chemistry. Maybe you haven't been eating healthy enough to be able to breathe and quiet the mind. And then just remember to laugh at yourself, because you're a moron. Who could have saw this coming? Who could have saw the UK lowering that voting age down to 16 coming? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if you put your ears to the grindstone, there were probably some people shouting this. You can go back, you can take a look. But that really is kind of the issue in society today, is nobody really has any memory and nobody's paying attention to how these things, these motifs, these literary themes that are playing out through us in the decisions that we make, because we are being subtly programmed, subtly nudged by this technology that we are addicted to, this thing that we love so much, this thing that we can't put down. It's making us become more like it, and it is becoming more like us at the same time. As the AI is being programmed on our programming, we are subtly nudging each other back and forth, like a race to the bottom to see where we're going to go. But not anymore, because this is the division point. As we talked about, E equals MC squared. The only time is now. That's what we've talked about. In 2012, at the CERN Hadron Collider, when they spun those two particles into each other faster than the speed of light, they ripped the fabric of time. That allowed us to hop timelines in any direction we want, because that's all time is. We had a fundamental understanding that time was anything other than a direction that we can move in any moment we feel present. In this moment we feel present, we can access all of that information, all of that time, all of that energy which still exists. We can tap into it. Hasn't gone anywhere. The laws of thermodynamics tell us this. Unless someone understands the quantum world, unless someone understands the physical world and physics any better than they are letting on. That's what we are forced to deal with at this stage of the game. All right, and we're not the first people to figure it out. I'm a dummy. I am so stupid. I am so dumb. Oh, you guys, if you could truly understand that maybe you can do this so much better than me. Ha! You must be able to. The younger you are, the more access to it you have, the more potential you have for the future to be able to hop into this 5D world that we're all talking about and bring it into this 3D world and unite the two right now. You're going to be closer to it than I am. All right, that's just the way that it works. You are the future. And that's potentially why we've had so much conflict in our generations over time. We've forgotten that the children are the future, and there's no better example of COVID. When we were at a time scared as a society, collectively, sent for whatever reason into a time of fear collectively, what was the first thing we did? We protected our elders, and we forgot about the youth. We didn't ask questions about how it was going to develop or inhibit children's development by putting masks on our entire society and forcing people indoors and learning from home. Maybe we didn't pay enough attention to what social distancing actually meant for human contact. And that we all overlooked so that we could take care of the elders, when that's a lesson for us to grow from. Because the children of the future, the children are the smartest ones in the room energetically and spiritually. But that's what society seems to have forgotten, right? That's how a small truth and a half-truth can be manipulated and used for negative to a negative end, right? For negative purposes, aligned in some way, shape, or form. That's how the trick is played. Children are so smart, right? So let's let them vote at 16. Let's let them chop off their genitalia whenever they feel like it. Let's start introducing drugs and hormones that get in the way of their natural sexual reproductive cycles. All right? These are stretches and these are leaps. I'm saying maybe your 4-year-old has some insight into something spiritually and some advice that's going to be pertinent to the now in your life. Some decision that's coming up, maybe they have some insight on that. Maybe your 8-year-old does as well. All right, but not telling them, allowing them to eat ice cream and chop off their dicks. All right, these are two different things logically. These are how these ideas get perverted. All right, and there are people very good at explaining this. Kurt Metzger and Andy at Control Alt History had a brilliant conversation, and they speak They're able to disassemble the programming so well. Kurt, because he was a part of it. Andy, because he's studied it so extensively. And he's continually digging up examples from it in the past and how it's playing out in current events right now. He would be a great guest on this podcast. I hope we get a chance to talk to him. But I'm not the only one doing this. All right? I never was. I was connecting dots and pieces, maybe in a different way than Kurt is, maybe in a different way than Andy is, but we're all doing the same thing. It's no different than what Einstein's saying with that goddamn equation, E equals mc squared. It's all the same thing. It's no different than Beethoven. All right? Music is just engineering. All right? Through time. That's all music is, vibrations and scales and tempos and beats. A number in itself is arithmetic. A number in space is geometry. A number in time is music. A number in space-time is astrology. And a number in time-space is purpose. That is your reason for being here. That is your unique individual reason for coming to this earth to have some sort of experience, for your soul's growth. And your soul is just an ego on another level, in a different space-time, in a different dimension, which there must be more of because we exist in the third frequency of the first dimension, and we see things in 2D. We exist in 3D, moving about space-time, knowing that there's a 4D, which is our awareness to what's going on and how our eyes can play tricks on us, how our eyes can actually be deceiving us, and really our heart is what we should be trying to develop some sort of electromagnetic coherence to, so that we can begin to magnetize ourselves and pull the exact reality that what we're looking for into creation in this dimension and bridge the gap. And that's what we're here to do. Us millennials is to bridge that gap. The boomers held the light for us. We will bridge the gap to the next generation, which will carry it forward into the next golden age, whose currency will be authenticity. And that is all we have today, folks. I love you. Take back your consciousness. I'm out. If you want to find out where else you can listen to this broadcast and you're a human, you can go to MugsyTheCreator.com. If you're a robot, I got nothing for you. I mean, unless you can subscribe over here, or you can click this playlist. If you're a robot, you can do that. That would definitely help. Like, subscribe, whatever you want. Thanks a lot, guys.